Welcome to the Discount Property Investor Podcast, where we show you how to buy real estate at a discount so you can create wealth over time and income today. Our mission is to share what we have learned from the experience of others and help you make more money investing like a pro. We want to teach you how to create wealth by investing in real estate, the Discount Property Investor way. Thanks for tuning in.
Welcome back, guys. This is the Discount Property Investor Podcast. This is your host, David Dodge, joined with co-host Ray Bartle today.
Good morning.
Ray.
Good morning. Good morning, guys. Welcome.
We have a special guest today, guys. We have Mr. Alan Cowgill. And Mr. Alan Cowgill is the expert in private money and how to raise private money. So, Ray, you want to introduce Alan for us?
Yeah, I'm really excited that Alan was able to join us today. Personally, he's one of the gurus that I ran into probably midway through my career, because previously I used private lenders, not really knowing what I was really doing, Dave. I just kind of cropped along, and all of a sudden I was introduced to Alan Cowgill's program, which I purchased, and I started using it. And what happened to me is I started outgrowing my lenders, so I had to go ask more and more private lenders to loan me money to keep my business going. It's just made a big difference in the real estate business and also my rehab projects. And I've been studying Alan for many years, and I really appreciate him coming in today. I would just tell you his program works. I can tell you that firsthand, and that's why we really are glad that he was able to meet with us today. And we'll go through some questions and that we want to talk with Alan. And at the end, of course, we're going to see if there's anything special you'd like to offer or any kind of advice you'd like to give us. So I guess the first thing I want to do, Alan, could you give us some of your background, exactly how you got started into private lending and kind of how your career began?
Yeah, I'd love to, and I greatly appreciate you guys doing this education for everybody. It's great, and I appreciate you asking me to join you.
We're happy to have you.
I started out many years ago broke. I was in corporate America, and I'd been successful as a middle manager. But as I was climbing that corporate ladder, one day I realized I had a ladder against the wrong wall. I heard 92% of the population retire at poverty level after working a JOB all their life, and it got my attention because I was struggling. I was struggling paying my bills, and even though I'd been successful in corporate America, I was living in a little dinky 2-bedroom apartment, and kind of let you know what I was living through at the time. I had this old beat-up car that I needed to put some money into, but I was too busy paying my other bills, and I put that on the back burner. And then one night on a first date, this thing paid me back. It's going to be an ugly story, right? Well,
I can't imagine.
Yeah, I pulled up in front of this apartment complex that walked this lady up to her door after our very first date, and halfway up to the door, I turned around and looked. My car had burst into flames.
No way.
Yeah, when I tell that the groups that I speak to, like when I spoke for you guys, Ray, I hear somebody in the back of the room yell "hot date,"
Probably really impressed her, I assume.
Oh yeah, that was our last date. Every morning when she woke up, I remember that date was a burnt chard mark in the parking lot. So it kept me frustrated with my life. I didn't know what to do. I looked into franchises, but they take money, and I didn't have money. I did decide to invest, though. That year, I took my whole federal tax return and plunked it down on Ohio lottery tickets.
How'd that work out?
It didn't work out at all. No, I lost on everything. I kind of kid the people that are listening to me that now they don't think I'm the sharpest tool in the shed. So I kept me broke, kept me frustrated. I was worried about paying my bills, and one night I couldn't sleep. And I got up and I started to channel surf, and I hit one of these real estate infomercials.
Oh, wow.
And I watched it. Got my attention, and I didn't have the money to spend on the home study system because I spent my money that day on lottery tickets. But I picked up the phone, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, I ordered that home study system and became enthralled with real estate. And that year I bought 2 properties. The next year, 5. The following year I bought 18. Since that point in time, I've done hundreds of real estate deals, but half the deals I do are without monthly payments.
I like that part.
Yeah, and that's all because along the way I found private lenders, and that's how I fund my deals.
Great. Well, can you tell us a little, what is private money? I mean, how, and why should real estate investors actually try to use it in their deals too, like you did?
Yeah, when I was coming up through my real estate education, I heard this thing about hard money lenders and private lenders, and I've been going to the local bank and getting my loans. But one day the regulators came in and took a look at the bank's books, and they said you can't do those type of loans anymore. What that did is it shut off the funding for all of us creative real estate investors within 24 hours. And so I had to do something else. I went out a line of credit, but we need a lot of money in this business. You max that out, you shut your own business down. Every year they can call that money due, and I didn't know what to do. I looked at hard money lenders, and they're very expensive. And so I heard this thing about private money, but I thought it was the same as hard money at the time, but it's actually distinctly different. A hard money lender, what they do is they set the rules. What we do with private money is we get to set the rules. Well, my mom had come into some money when my dad had passed away, and she did what most folks would do. She took the money and plunked it down on a bank certificate of deposit. And she would drive 45 minutes one way just to get a few pennies more on interest on that because she knew she'd have to live off that the rest of her life. Well, I went to Mom and I said, look, you're getting this paltry low rate of return on a bank CD. I can give you 3, 4, 5 times what you're getting on a bank CD. I can give you a mortgage, a promissory note, hazard insurance, lender title insurance. I can pay you simple interest and pay you monthly. And Mom jumped for joy and started to loan me money. So to answer your question, private money is money that you borrow from a private individual, and you get to set the rules on your funding. They don't set the rules. They let you do it, at least the lenders that I do business with. And, I said something earlier about half the deals I do are without monthly payments. Let me talk about that for just a second.
Yeah.
What I found is that if you could find someone that had an IRA or they worked at JOB and a company offered a 401k program, if that person has quit, retired, or gotten laid off, and for the folks listening out there, you ought to write that down. If you know someone that has a 401k and they've quit, retired, or gotten laid off, and they can take that money and roll it over into a self-directed IRA, which is what you want them to do, a self-directed IRA. Well, as that money's in that IRA, they can borrow money out of that IRA to live off of every month, but they still have a pile of money in there they want to make grow. And that's where we come into play, where we can use that money on our deals. We can use that money on our real estate deals. So Mom's money wasn't IRA money. I could just borrow it as on a bank CD. But some people, they move their money into a self-directed IRA. You can also borrow their money. And the beauty of that is they don't need the monthly payments like my mom did. If they want money to live off of, like I said, they can pull it out of the IRA. But what happened is I found these people didn't need monthly payments. Now, let me take you back in time, and maybe you were going to get into this in a little bit, but let me go ahead and talk about it now. Is when I got started, the going rate was 15% interest. I've been in real estate 20 years, and I had my first private lender, 2 years into that. And so, you're right. That's a high interest. Well, over time, the market changed, and I got feedback from my private lenders that 15% was too good to be true, and so I lowered my interest rate to keep them happy.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
I'm glad you guys laughed because that's the best joke I got right there.
Yeah.
Okay?
So Alan, today, what is the best interest, or what is the interest rate that you're offering your private lenders now?
Yeah, well, what happened was when that thing dropped, I paid a split rate, 10 and 12%. 10% if they wanted monthly payments, and 12% if they'd let the money accrue. And I got to be honest, I didn't think anybody would go for the no payment idea.
Right.
But what I found is all these people that had these self-directed IRAs, that's exactly what they took because they were more interested in getting a higher rate of interest. Now, to answer your question, the market shifted again, and I've got students that are paying 4, 4.5, 5,
Wow.
6% interest. The going rate I see right now is between 6 and 8% throughout the nation.
Mm-hmm.
So,
is that with or without payments, or?
Well, you can structure the business however you want.
Right.
You could do 6% no payments, or you could do 6% with payments and 8% without payments. You see, I was able to offer 2 interest rates because my properties, I've got rentals and rent-to-own properties, and so I had monthly rent coming in, and so I could pay a monthly payment to my private lender.
Right.
But I also like to retail property by fixed sell, and so for those folks, they would be the no payment ones. So it's structured however you want. You can use either one. To answer your question, is you could do what I do is I either do a no payment, or I do a payment, or I will do a low interest and amortize the loan and keep the house.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So long-term kind of lender.
Yeah. Yeah, the beauty of this is it fits for all real estate investors. And about 40% of my student base is commercial, and the rest are residential.
Okay.
Well, I wouldn't realize that. I wouldn't think it would be that high. 40% commercial. That's
Wow.
great.
That is good.
Yeah, yeah. I get a good portion of my folks that are doing commercial stuff.
Hey, so Al,
Yeah,
let's say.
I didn't either when I got into it. I didn't realize that, but once I get out there and start teaching, I see that it fits for anything. People want to buy an office building or a 40-unit apartment complex or storage units, which are hot.
Yeah.
They come to me to figure out how to get private money. I don't loan money. What I do is I teach people how to fish. I teach people to go out and get their own private money, and that way they can use it for a lifetime.
Yeah. So Al, let me ask you this, Alan. So, okay, let's say I found somebody have an IRA. They get into self-directed. What paperwork do I need to be able to make the lender feel comfortable and cover myself too on that particular loan?
Good question.
Oh, that's a great question. You want the same paperwork basically that a lending institution would use, and let me boil it down. It's not a big thick bunch of paper like they do. For us, it's a mortgage, a promissory note, hazard insurance, and lender's title insurance, and a disclosure statement.
So there's literally five different things.
Yeah, there's basically 5 things. And on that disclosure statement, we ought to talk about that for just a second.
Let's.
What the powers to be that allow us to go get private money is called the SEC.
Right.
And I hired I'm not an attorney. I don't give legal advice. So I had to hire an attorney many years ago to figure out what the rules are. And he researched every state in the United States. I even had him do Canada because I got students up there too. And when he got done, he called me up and he said, "Hey, I want to thank you." I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Well, I got done with the project and I'm moving into my new house and you bought it."
Was that because of the fees you paid? You paid him?
Yeah, you don't want to hear that from anybody that you bought their house.
Not good news. Good news for him.
Yeah. So what had happened is what happened when I did that is it set me apart from anybody out there even thinking about teaching private money, because I've got the rules for every single state. And so Ray, when I came out and talked to the folks out there at your group, what I did was I shared with them the information on their state, and encouraged them to go get an attorney to take care of it. Well, go ahead.
I say every state's going to be different, I assume.
Yeah, the beauty of it is there's only 5 rules typically in every single state, and that's one of the things my attorney found out. And the rules are very simple. The problem of it is real estate investors don't know what they are.
Right.
And but once they find out what they are, they realize how simple they are.
Right.
and they just jump right in using private money. Now, on this disclosure statement, one of the things that you need to do with a private lender is disclose what you're doing. My disclosure statement's 9 pages long, and it's very simple. It just tells them who I am, how the money's used, how they get paid back, what interest rate do I pay, what kind of property am I buying, and using the money on, and how long I expect to keep the property.
Do you have a specific property identified at that point?
No.
No.
No. The disclosure statement tells them the type of business I am, not what type of property I'm buying.
Okay.
I shouldn't say it that way. Not the address of the property. So I can use it over and over again without changing it.
Yeah. So like I'm going to buy residential property, or I'm going to buy commercial, I guess. So that kind of.
Yes.
Says,
yeah. In my case, it's ugly, stinky houses. So I don't say it quite like that.
Stinky houses.
I don't say that quite that way in the disclosure statement, but low end property.
Yeah. So let's say, okay, we got the money, we got the paperwork in place. Now, do they just hand me a check, or do I go to a closing, or how does that part work?
Wow, I'm glad you asked that. That's a great question. People getting into this, they don't understand that. They think it's okay to touch the money, but the problem of it is we promise private lenders that the money is secured by real estate.
Okay.
And therefore, if you touch that check, then that money is unsecured, and you would be violating what you told the private lender. It could be construed as committing fraud. It could be that seen that way. So that's not what we do. What we do is we have the lender send the money to a formal closing that I set up, and then the money is put into escrow there. And I order up money about 7 to 10 days in advance before I'm getting ready to close. The lender needs to send good funds in, which means that, it needs to be a wire or a bank check. If it's a personal check, then we're going to have a dry closing, or we're going to have to let the thing, set there for a while.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
Clears. So the money goes into escrow, we close, and what I do, I think you guys are going to love this, I always borrow extra. In fact, everybody listening ought to write that down. Always borrow extra. We are taught when we get into real estate that we earn our money when we negotiate the deal, but you physically don't get your money a lot of times until you sell the property.
Right.
In my world, I get the money on both ends. I get the money when I close, and I get a bigger chunk of money when I sell. Mm-hmm. When I close to buy, I get a little chunk. And so I always borrow extra money. And so when I go to closing, on my side of the paperwork, I will have enough money to rehab the property, and I'll have this extra money in case I miss my rehab, in case something goes amiss. If something doesn't go amiss, then I've got extra cash the day I buy, and that helps everybody's cash flow. Imagine doing a deal, borrowing extra money right up front, and having no monthly payments.
That's great.
Think about what that would do.
Alan, do you mind if we ask how much extra you borrow? Is there a formula for that? Are you borrowing 10%? Are you borrowing $5,000 extra? Like, how do you determine how much extra to ask for? Or to borrow? I just did it deal by deal. I never got that fancy on it with a percentage. If I got a deal and I want to borrow, like $3,000, I borrow that. The highest I ever took out was $17,045.
Whoa!
You're saying extra?
Extra. The day I bought. In fact, let me tell you about that deal. What happened was I was sitting at my desk, and this lady calls up, and she says, "Are you one of the We Buy Houses guys?" I said, "Yeah, I am." She said, "Well, I bought this property 9 months ago, and I've never bothered to make the first payment on it. For some reason, the bank wants it back."
Imagine that.
Imagine that.
She said, I talked to the bank, and she said, if I can find somebody to pay cash for this by the end of the month, they'll sell it to them for pennies on the dollar on what I paid for it. Well, I went over, I took a look at the house, and one of the things, when you hear the end of the month, it doesn't sound too bad until you realize the end of the month is 5 days away.
Whoa.
So that would make some people pucker, I'll tell you. But if you got private money, it's a phone call away. In fact, I tell my students it's like ordering pizza. The way I order money is the way you order pizza. That's how easy it is. So I picked up the phone, I called up a private lender. They sent in money to closing. 5 days later, I owned that house, and on a property that I didn't know I was going to buy on a Monday, I owned on a Friday, and when I walked out of closing, I had $17,045 put in my bank account.
Oh my gosh, what a
because
deal!
there was so much. Yeah, she'd negotiated the short sale. See,
Oh wow.
there was so much equity in the house that I ended up making $31,945 on the deal when I sold it eventually.
Wow, that's sweet.
Holy cow, that's great.
Yeah.
You know, so
Day.
back on the handing the money over. I know in Missouri we use title companies here in St. Louis. Is Ohio
Yes.
the same, or use attorneys?
I just got off the phone with the title company just a few minutes ago before we talked.
Okay.
Yeah, we got title companies. We use attorneys too. So, whatever you want to use. So yeah.
Yeah, depends on what state. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. The other thing I was going to say. Okay, so how do I go find these private lenders, Alan? I mean, it sounds so easy. How do I actually, how do I do that? How do I find private lenders?
Good question.
Well, great question. That's actually the heart of my system is teaching people how to attract and then convert people into private money. So that's exactly what I teach folks. I got a fortune on the first one because my mom was getting such a low rate of return on a bank CD. And in fact, if folks look at USA Today, the American newspaper, if you go to the money tab, there's different tabs in there. If you go to the money section on a Thursday typically, or maybe a Friday, in the bottom left-hand corner of the front cover on the money section, it'll have the national CD rates.
Oh, wow.
And the rates out there are horrible. Well, I've seen them down at 0.022%.
Oh,
Last
my
time
God.
I looked, 0.033%. I mean, like a third of 1%. It's pathetic. You think about somebody loaning a person $100,000, and that money sits out there at 0.033%.
Jeez,
And after 12 months, they got all of $330. I mean, that'll bring
Wow.
tears to your.
Yeah,
You think about what we can
really
on the same example of $100,000. If somebody if a real estate investor wants to pay 7%, at the end of the year, that same $100,000 for that person would make $7,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it's $700 in difference.
It's huge. So to answer your question on how to attract lenders, there's a number of different ways. In fact, I've come up with 16 different ways to locate private lenders.
Oh, wow.
Let me take you down two paths, though.
Sure.
One path is people that you know. And what I would do is I would create a PowerPoint presentation. That's when I was in corporate America, I would be giving presentations using PowerPoint every week. In fact, they flew me to Europe to give a 20-minute presentation once. And so I would recommend that you create a PowerPoint presentation to tell your story, and then meet people either at a restaurant. If it's mom, you can meet it at their house, but I don't like meeting people in their homes because of all the distractions.
Exactly.
Mom's okay, but if it's somebody else out there that like your dentist or somebody, your child's teacher, and you want to talk to them about private money, I don't like going to their house because of the distractions. The dog running through the house and somebody coming to the door and the kids and all that. I'd prefer to do it at a restaurant and sit there with your PowerPoint presentation and go through it. I've also got a special report that I give them, which is the typical 12 questions that are asked by private lenders. And so I cover them all. And I give them, and a little brochure I give them to where it says, if you got this question, here's the answer. Here's what I do. And the other thing I've got that I like to use is an audio business card. So many people like to read, like my mom. Other people like to listen to CDs and things like that. And so I offer both. And on the CD is a 22-minute audio explaining what private lending is all about and encouraging them to loan money. And so that's just a few of the ways to attract private lenders. Now, you can't jump off this podcast and start advertising for private lenders because that's one of those restrictions by the SEC, you have to ask for permission before you can advertise to strangers.
Right.
I'm guessing here, but in the eyes of the SEC, they don't want your empire to grow so large that you hurt people that they don't know about it. And if you advertise, then you could amass a lot of private lenders.
Right.
And
right.
so, but you can advertise. It's not hard. You just fill out some paperwork and pay. Sometimes you pay a small fee, and sometimes there's no fee. And then after you get done with that, then you got the right to advertise. And there's a lot of times that's controlled by your state, and they'll have special for you to fill out.
Yeah, I know, Alan. I know you mentioned that special report, that PowerPoint presentation. I know that when I first purchased your program, that was what really got my business going. Actually, you also have a credibility report that you provide. Actually, I actually used yours. Just changed my name a few times. That's what it's there for.
It makes it like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
No, that's a great thing, and it was, and that's really made a big difference. Is when you come and talk to people, they might not think you're a real estate person until you start showing the things you've done, and that credibility report makes it look like, wow, this guy knows what he's doing. Look at his background, and it's a really good way to build credibility that people, especially people that some might know you as. Like, for instance, one of my private lenders, I've known him since he's been probably high school. We played against each other in basketball, and he was a coach for 30 years. He retired, had a bunch of money, and he's been watching me do this. And, he sat down, he looked at me as a basketball player, guy, and now he's looking to real estate business. Hey, this is a good place to put my money. It's sitting there at CD rates 1.5% or whatever, and Ray's going to give us a lot more than that. So I think that's the biggest thing I got from your program, Alan, was that credibility kit.
Oh, I'm glad you told me that. Let me share something with you might not know on how that thing came about. What happened was this couple had a house for sale, and I went in and I looked at the house, and we were sitting at the kitchen table, and they were motivated sellers because the wife had a boyfriend, and so that makes them motivated, I guess. So they wanted to unload the house. Well, what happened to me sitting at that table is, in my mind, I thought it was a done deal. I thought I had the house, and it was a beautiful house, and there was a lot of equity in it. And the wife says, "Prove it. Prove what you told us today that you can really do." Well, when I walked into the place, I didn't have anything in my hand, and so I left, agreed to get up some information, went back, and I pulled together a lot of information. And went back, and by the time I got back there, my competitor owned the house.
Oh, no.
So they'd agreed to sell it to him. And so ever since that day, I realized the importance of having something that I would be able to communicate in writing some of the reason people ought to sell a house or loan me money or whatever. And so when I started working with private lenders, it was a natural thing for me to take that same credibility kit and let them look at it. And if they want to keep it, they can, but normally they don't. Normally what they do is they'll thumb through it, read a few things, and give it back to you. Mm-hmm. But what it does is it raises the confidence in them loaning money to you. You see, private lenders loan you money based on the fact that they trust you.
Exactly.
And you need to know that. And Ray, I know you do. And so that's where that credibility kit comes in. And I thought you did a marvelous job explaining it on what it's done for you. And so
it's really helped my business a lot, Alan. And it's given me the confidence to go talk to people who may not know me as well, and able to get funds that way too. One question I do have though. So let's say I'm in Missouri and I have a buddy of mine in California who wants to loan me money. Is there any rules of going across state lines?
Yeah, there's what happens is there's kind of two levels of the SEC. One is there's a federal SEC, and the other one is there's the division of the SEC within states. Well, when you go across a state line, then the federal SEC wants some paperwork filled out, and it's free. I'll give you the form right now for the folks who want to write it down. It's called a 504 Reg D, and I got that from my attorney. Like I said, I'm not an attorney, not giving legal advice. You should do this out with your SEC attorney. And what I'm talking about, you ought to work with an SEC attorney, not your real estate attorney, because just like doctors There's different specialty. You get a dentist and a chiropractor and a heart surgeon and and general practitioner. So it's the same with attorneys. They have their different expertise. So the 504 Reg D is a form you can download off the internet, easy to fill out, and that allows you to cross state lines for my attorney. And so you fill it out, it's free, you turn it in, and you're good to go.
Right, right. Alan, is there any rules about how much money you can borrow from private lenders?
There is. That's a great question. There is rules. How do I word this? There is different levels based on what you want to do. And for an example, if I want to borrow money in my state, and most states are like this, we can borrow up to $1 million. But if I want to go unlimited, I have to fill out some paperwork, and then I could go unlimited dollars, which would be called a private placement memorandum. Some of you might know that as syndication. Rules on that is 506 Rule C and 506 Rule B. 506 Rule C, you can advertise, and with 506 Rule B, you cannot advertise, but you can amass unlimited amount of money. And so I told you about 40% of my student base is commercial. About 25% of that 40 would be using PPMs. Would be using private placement where they want to go unlimited. So that's a good question, because people get into this, they don't know that there's some thresholds out there, and so
that allows you to pool private money then too, right, Alan?
Yeah.
Different.
Yeah, you can pool money within your state, but you got $1 million cap, but you have to fill out the paperwork to do that.
That's Missouri. No, Missouri. I remember it's in I think up to 25 private lenders, if I remember correctly. But that should be checked with attorney. But
I think it's 35. But
it might have changed.
Yeah, the other thing you need to know for the folks out there is that, like in my state, I could go get a private lender in the next 10 minutes. There are, and most states are like that. You can get a private lender instantly, and then you can go up to your $1 million cap. And then at that point, if you want to get more money, then you have to fill out some paperwork and go above that.
Right.
Yeah. Now there's 13 states that before you get a lender, you need to go fill out a little form, the state form, and pay a fee. Actually, I think they do it for a fee. That's a personal opinion, but then you can go get a private lender right after that. So,
Gotcha.
So there's 13 states. You need to know if you live in one of those 13 states.
Right. So, Alan, I've heard that the SEC has opened up the doors recently on advertising. Can you share what happened with that?
Yeah, what happened back in the first quarter of 2012, the Congress forced the SEC to make some changes. And my understanding is the SEC wasn't very excited about doing it because they liked things the way they were. But what happened is in September of 2013, they finally rolled out where they people could advertise. And it gets back to that 506 Rule C that I talked about.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what you're talking about. The PPM, which is called a private placement memorandum, what happened on that was people could, before September 2013, they weren't allowed to advertise using that big hammer. And I personally, I thought that was silly because you got unlimited money. It would seem like you should be able to advertise, but they weren't. So Congress forced the SEC to allow that, and so they rolled it out, and they wanted to retain the old way, which they named it a Rule B, and they also created a Rule C, where they can advertise, and you're working there with what's called accredited investors.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Now, what Ray was talking about a little bit ago on the 35 folks, that's still on the Rule B.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So you can have 35 non-accredited, and the rest have to be accredited. And then with the Rule C, they're all accredited investors, which means that their net worth is $1 million, not counting their personal residence,
Right.
or they make $200,000 a year this year, and they're expected to make it next year.
Right. So I guess meaning that they should know what they're doing is what we're saying, right?
Exactly. Yeah. What happens is, in the eyes of the SEC, we're professional real estate investors, and we're looking for, skilled and savvy lenders and people that have amassed that kind of net worth or earning power should be pretty savvy, and so therefore they relax the rules on them and let us do business together.
Hey, let me ask this: are you familiar with I see a lot on the wire today about crowdfunding? Is that something that you know some things about, or I just see it all the time and it's curious.
Yeah, I created when that first rolled out, I created an ebook on it, and so yeah, I got some knowledge on that. But here's the deal: when you go out with crowdfunding, is that you go out and you go to one of these portals, these people that have set up someplace where you can advertise, and they got some rules, so you need to understand the rules, and then you go out and you put your offer out there. You typically you would create a video to explain your offer, and maybe you'd give away some prizes or whatever if you reach your goal and things like that to people, and you market it, and then you have to drive traffic to that.
Okay.
Now, that takes a little bit of work, takes a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
In my world, I could get a private lender yet today just by knowing the words to say and going out and talking to somebody.
Right.
And I could have money really, really fast and not have to wait all that time.
Yeah, because in that case, you have to build up to get your money, it sounds like, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not putting crowdfunding down because, I know it's exciting for some folks and things like that. In my world, it's just not worth the time.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, interesting.
So I know, Alan, I appreciate your time and everything. What if you were starting over? Like a lot of our students are just now starting out, trying to learn the business. If you were starting from scratch, say tomorrow, what advice would you have for a new investor?
Two things. One is I would bring private lenders into my life right off the bat.
Yeah, definitely.
I wouldn't. It took me a while to understand it, to learn it, and all that, and then finally get a couple private lenders. And after I got 2 private lenders, it took me another 4 years. I languished in my JOB before I got my 3rd lender, and because I didn't see the power and the potential at that juncture. And it was a shame because of the wealth building I lost over the years because I didn't embrace the private lender concept. And so I wouldn't do that. I would get private lenders right away, and I would. The other thing I do is I'd work on my education, and I did that.
Oh, yeah.
I worked on my education, and it was exactly the right thing to do. Went to live events. I got home study systems. Went to a lot of one-day workshops, and I was just a sponge for getting my education.
Yeah, and that's what it takes. We try. Our students, we teach them. Join a local RIA. Get out and see some people. I mean, to get into real estate, look at it as another career change. If you're not a real estate person, I mean, that's the way we kind of try to teach people. It takes a while. You see all these people online saying, "Hey, in 2 days I made $1 million." I mean, just crazy things saying. But in reality, it takes some time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely takes some
time. It does. It does.
Okay, so the other. See, what else do we have here? Anything else?
I just have one more quick question about the SEC, like about the structure of it. So who does the SEC report to, and how are they structured?
Oh, good question.
Well, I wanted to know that too. I ended up having my attorney create four audios on that for me to give me the information on that. But The federal SEC is a massive organization, and
Sure. I mean, they're essentially regulating every security and exchange nationwide, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and they also have to worry about things coming
banking.
across the pond too, things from other countries and all that.
Right. Right.
Wow.
So they have to do that.
But every state then will have their own. They call it the division of the SEC within every single state. So here I've got the Ohio division of the SEC. Now, sometimes I've noticed that there's a couple states that have given it a different name, but it's actually the same department, same function. And so what they do is they control commerce within the state. And the federal SEC will cover it when it crosses state lines.
Gotcha.
In a nutshell.
So who do they report to? Do they report to the Congress, or is it just to the governor then? Or, yeah, I don't understand how the structure of it.
Within the state, they work closely with the Attorney General's office.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and so at the top level, I think it's the DOJ, but I'm guessing.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I guessed too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I guess we probably can appreciate all the time you've given us, Al. I kind of want to, and I appreciate. I know our students would be glad to get some information from. Is there any parting words of advice you have for any of the new guys trying to get back and get in the business?
Yeah, every chance I get, I tell my students this, that I got a little saying that education is the foundation to your real estate business.
Oh, wow.
And
very well.
Yeah. So
say it again so I can write. Say it again so I can write it down.
Yeah, okay. Education is the foundation to your real estate business.
Yeah, very well said.
Education is the foundation
to your real estate
business. Okay. Awesome.
I like that.
Alan, is there anything that you would like to promote? We would love for you to share some information with our listeners, our viewers, our students as well. And how they maybe are going to be able to contact you, or any courses that you're offering that they could purchase. Can you give us some information about how they can reach you and how they can maybe purchase one of your courses?
Yeah, well, a couple things. How about if I give them something for free?
Even better.
Yeah, how about a free book on private lending?
That'd be awesome.
If everybody writes this down, it's www. And then my name, Alan, A-L-A-N, Cowgill, C-O-W-G-I-L-L.
2 L's.
Yep, 2 L's. .com /home, H-O-M-E.
Home.
Okay.
So Alan, A-L-A-N, C-O-W-G-I-L-L .com /home. They can get a free book on private money and further continue this conversation, continuing education on private money.
Awesome.
Okay, and then the second thing is you talked about my products. If folks go to www. And there's 4 words here, just private lending made easy. Okay. And in made easy, there's 2 E's there, M-A-D-E and then E-A-S-E. .com. Okay. PrivatelendingMadeEasy.com. There's a couple things there that you need to know. One is you can sign up for 35 e-coaching lessons that I put together on private lending and real estate.
Sweet.
And they can sign up for that. And there's also another place where they can sign up, and there's 5 items that they can download. Like I said something briefly about money from across the pond. Well, that's called a Reg S. I've got a little, students ask me about that. I got a little ebook out there, a couple pages actually. It's not real big, but it's enough to get you familiarized with it. And some other stuff, and some other cool stuff out there, downloadable CD, things like that. So you get some more free training there.
Yeah, another thing I remember recently, didn't you launch? You've identified private lenders that students can actually go in and you identified some in your area too. Isn't there a new program or something you just started not too long ago?
Yeah, I got when they get, I don't do it until they get the system, because
Right, I understand.
I want to make sure that they got the tools to manage, the lender. And so when the system that I'm known for is my premium system. And when folks get that, along with that, they get a website that is updated monthly with people that have loaned money, actually throughout the United States, and so right in their backyard too.
I'll be darned. Okay.
Yeah,
That's great.
so
Makes
my
it
students
easy.
love. Yeah. So you got private lenders, right there at your fingertips on this website.
Wow,
Right.
that's amazing.
Well, Alan, hey, I really wanted to thank you for joining us today, and appreciate everything you do to help the real estate industry, and especially, being the expert in private lending. I think it's opened up a lot of people's eyes, and I know it's helped my business greatly to grow to where we're at. So again, I want to thank you, and I know David here's.
We just appreciate having you on today, and appreciate your time. And again, all of our students and our listeners and our viewers are going to be appreciative as well. So thank you very much, Alan. We do appreciate you.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I love talking about private money.
That's right.
Again.
Well, Alan, end us out with the closing quote. I know you've already said it a couple times, but I want you to just repeat it one more time. Go ahead and give us the ending quote for the podcast episode today.
Sure. Yeah. What I tell folks is education is the foundation to your real estate business.
Love it.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Alan. We appreciate it. Thanks for listening, everyone. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to help us reach a wider audience. We would also appreciate it if you left us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Thanks in advance for your support. And remember, you make your money when you buy and get paid when you sell. Now let's go build some wealth.